there. Okay.
Mm,
Day to
it's a
day.
little late. Sorry.
I can't do two things at once. Um, so the best rule of thumb is go with the flow. We're so used to having, so much of our lives nailed down with what we're going to do. Often things have to change. What we're going to do change at the last minute, and it's best just to, things work. Things will work out. Um, we do our the mission does its best to honor our preferences of what we want to do. Um, and I'm going to go over some of the things that we will do and some of the things that are going to be more optional. Um, we wash dishes a number of times a week. And we will be washing for, probably 50 or 60 people. So that's a big operation. And so we always have to get to the meal ahead of time. We'll do it one meal. Villanova will do it another meal. Next, maybe another college, maybe Gannon might be there. We'll do it a third meal. So we take turns, but that's one of our most common activity. And then we have two activities each day. Usually the morning activity is more energetic, and it goes from 9 to noon. And so we meet in front of the church at 9. We usually go by a van to the activity. And then we get picked up at noon, lunch is at 12:30. And then 2 o'clock is our next activity, which goes usually from 2 to 4:30. Excuse me. And that's usually a more sedentary or a learning experience. So often we do construction in the morning and then some sort of a learning or activity in the afternoon. Dinner's at 6, and then we have some time off after dinner, and then usually we gather around 7:30 to like 9 to have common group reflection. And that's my favorite part of the day is hearing what everybody has learned and thought during the day. This is what the dishwashing looks like. Huge pots and pans, a lot of Clorox on your hands, and purifying the dishes. Um, there's a number of day in the life activities. We learn how to make tortillas here. Uh, she's grinding the corn to make it into a tortilla. Also learn how to carry things in her head, not usually successfully. Um, this is a community washing area where people bring their clothes to wash. That's my son Chris scrubbing something. So we'll learn how to do things that Guatemalan women do. Construction. Um, some people are more energetic. Sharon is digging. You can see I'm carrying a small bucket of dirt. Uh, you know, age has its privileges. Uh, Younger people might be using a wheelbarrow. So constructing homes for some of the families is one of the major activities. And I forgot how many homes are built in the course of a year. Something like 75 families get new homes that are built by the mission with the help of North Americans. Um, could people who have gone before talk a little bit about how difficult or how you feel about construction?
I can.
And take it away.
I've done like so many different construction projects, and I think in like the earlier years, it was more construction and harder work. And I would say as the years gone on, like we do more learning than we do construction. And it's really like do as much as you can. Like a lot of times, like everyone gets tired and you can just sit down and relax, drink some water and like talk with the family. It's not like too intense. So don't think it's like this crazy, like we have to build a house in a day. Like a lot of times there's, or all the time, there's Guatemalans building the house with you and showing you how to do everything. And these guys can do stuff like in minutes that takes us hours. So it's really just like learning, I would say, more than like the, you know,
Mhm.
don't think you're doing everything in one day.
Put
Yeah.
it this way, Andrew and I are absent from these photos because we were off on an assignment and we had to come late. And the entire time we were off, Andrew was like, "We're gonna miss construction. We have to get back. This could be so much more fun. We have to go." That's why we're not there.
Notice that all three people have gloves on, and so if you have a pair of work gloves, it wouldn't hurt to bring it along, throw it in your bag. Okay, anybody else want to say about construction? I know we are divided into people who are quite young and people who are less quite young. Uh, so I think what everybody's been saying, you don't feel pressured. This is not Habitat for Humanity. So, kind of get that out of your mind. We also have a coffee day. Um, this is where we have to climb up a mountain, and it's not climbing a mountain, but it's a fairly um, easy to stumble on the path. So I think I'm going to make sure I have a walking stick this year and not have to hold Holly's hand the entire time. It was a little bit weird going up and down the mountain holding Holly's hand. Um, but it's very rewarding because their whole lives revolve around coffee. Um, and that is their livelihood. And every time I have picked coffee, I have grown to respect every cup of coffee that I drink in the morning, that every
Mhm.
one of those beans that is picked by hand was picked by a human being, and they get paid so little. What's unique about the mission is that the mission pays above market. I forgot the percentage over market cost, so that the 70 to 100 families who supply the coffee to the mission can live a decent life based on their efforts. So we might do that in the morning, and then after lunch, we could get a presentation about the best way to brew your coffee, the different kinds of coffee that the mission grows, and then it ends with a fun learning how to be a barista, and we get a chance to do our own coffee cup. Anybody have any comments on that? I found that a fun day.
Why didn't you show us what you made?
No,
No. Okay. Next slide.
I made an ice cream cone as the decoration, which some people who have dirty minds see it as something else. And I didn't realize it until I had finished. I was so
That's not the
proud
right
of
story. We almost got kicked out because Eddie looked at us like,
that.
sir.
Oh my God. Um, and then we also do something called the charity program shopping and delivery, where the mission tells us what families need, what food stuff, and we shop in the market for the food, and then we go with a member of the community to a family, who is obviously a very, very poor family, and we give the food to those people. Any comments on that from any of the veterans? Okay. Um, when we get there on Saturday, we'll probably either find a place to eat. Last year we went and got pizza and brought it back to our hotel. We'll figure out what to do. We land at 2, but we really don't get to the mission until 5. And then by the time we unpack, we'll eat our dinner at 6. Oh yeah. Um, the we only have an hour and 15 minutes between our connection in Fort Lauderdale. And so, make sure that you know what you need in that hour, because we do have about a 10 to 15-minute walk from our airplane from Philadelphia to get on the other airplane to go to Guatemala. So that's going to be interesting. So no dilly-dallying between the planes. So that's Saturday. And then Sunday, it says here the breakfast is on our own. I don't remember that as true, but we'll figure that out. And then we get on a boat and we go to a larger town, and it's called Santiago, and we learn about a priest who was martyred there a couple decades ago, and we'll spend time in these meetings learning about Father Stan. And then I think we're going to get on the boat again and go to another town where we'll have our lunch, and we'll also have some time for shopping for souvenirs. And then we come back and have dinner at 6 o'clock back at the mission on Sunday night. Okay, any questions?
Is the boat? She just asked me. Is the boat ride like 10 minutes long? She gets seasick, but I was telling her it's like it's a lake, so it's not really like rough.
It's not rough, but sometimes the captains like to hit the waves, so it can be a little bouncy.
It's like 25 minutes.
Okay.
That's not too bad.
I don't remember anyone getting sick on the boat.
Okay.
But it can be bumpy on some days especially coming home because they want to get home fast. So they really floor it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, okay. Now I'm just going to talk a little bit about, and people who've been in the class before, this might be when we take, I want to preview the video that people are going to watch for next week. But you guys don't need to stay around, but let's just have a little bit of time, if you have any questions before our veterans leave. Anybody have any questions, comments?
I have
Everybody's
a
good?
question. I saw the handout about dengue, and I've been in tropical environments before, but they've been urban, and so I've never had a concern about that. So how serious is it?
That's the only time I've ever seen any mention of it. Is Faith still here? Faith, do you know anything more about dengue?
Yeah, so I mean, do you have a specific the thing is they were in a dengue crisis, but the crisis is over. So I don't know if that helps. Like it's not in the thick of it. Um, but I mean, I lived there for a few months during the dengue crisis, like the height of the dengue crisis. So what you were told to do is just there's obviously no medication for it. There's no like cure or anything. Um, I was given malaria drugs by my doctor. The malaria drugs don't help, but if you get a prescription for them, it can like calm some of the symptoms you have. So if you really want to, you can ask your primary care doctor for malaria drugs. I didn't use any of them. But the thing is, there's bug spray all around the mission. At least there was like during the crisis. So just use bug spray. DEET is like the heaviest duty stuff. Like use DEET. And then never wear shorts, but you're not really supposed to wear shorts anyway, which I'm sure we'll go over. There's kind of like a dress code, so you shouldn't really be wearing shorts anyway. But like high socks, just don't expose your skin as much as possible. But the crisis is like officially over.
I would say like too, I've traveled a lot and I've never seen any bugs really there. And I don't know, I don't think it was really bad any of the 6 times I've been there. Like Faith was there a different time of year, and I think it was worse that time of year. But
For
like
sure.
when we go, it's like very nice weather, and like we don't really get rain. I don't think it's ever rained any of the times.
Yeah, Faith went during the rainy season and she
Yeah.
had floods. I remember.
They were in like a terrible like crisis, but it's definitely over. And normally, like Andrew said, it's not that big of a deal. And they have bug spray provided to you, but you can always bring your own too.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call it tropical either. I mean, it never, I don't think it ever gets up to 80. So it's usually like in the 70s, and then in the evening it goes down to like into the high 50s, maybe 55, something like that. So it's very, it's spring weather all the time. It's not, it's not um, humid and buggy that way. Okay, that's a good explanation. Thanks, Paula. Thanks for saying that. Anybody else before we dismiss our um, veterans? Okay, good. Um, you guys can hang around if you want, but I'm going to go and talk about when the mountains tremble now.
Feel better, Faith.
Yeah, get
Thank
better
you.
quickly.
It's my bedtime. Bye, everyone.
See, I told you she really is an old soul. She, she's
So
gonna,
cute.
I don't, if she's already a grandmother, how does she get any older than being a grandmother already? Okay, is she gone? Um,
All right. See you guys later.
bye-bye. The
Oh,
relationship,
so we can leave here. All right then, JC, I didn't realize we can leave. Okay, bye-bye.
yeah, yeah, you're a veteran.
Oh,
Okay,
are you
see
telling me
you.
I'm old?
No, you're a veteran, you're seasoned.
Just messing with you, JC.
Yeah,
Take care.
okay. Um, I'm going to be careful what I'm going to say now. Um, the United States and Central and South America have had a difficult relationship politically. The United States tends to view Central and South America as our own, and we want Central and South American countries to be subservient to us. Geez, I wonder why I'm saying that now carefully. Um, we often see what happens through the lens of North Americans, and we don't realize the history of these countries, which we'll go into more in the next 2 weeks. Um, all these countries were colonized, mainly by Spain and mainly enslaved people in Central and South America for centuries. Even when these countries won their liberation, their autonomy was not respected by the United States. Um, and so when we talk about why is Guatemala poor, Guatemala is poor often because North America, Europe wanted it to be poor. We want the things that Guatemala has, but we don't want to pay for them fairly. We have never wanted to treat them as equals. And so it drives me crazy when we wonder why, you know, immigrants leave a country like Guatemala. Why don't they just stay there? Why don't they make their country better? Well, we have systematically made Guatemala and many other countries poor. And so that's what we're going to learn about in the next couple of weeks. Um, Around the time of after World War II, so in the 50s and 60s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, Guatemala elected a president, several presidents, who wanted to give the land, which had been taken from the indigenous people, think like our own Native Americans, um, land was taken, and these presidents wanted to restore the land back to their original owners, the indigenous people, the Maya people. Um, we in the United States, however, said, no, that's communism. You're taking away land that the rich own and that the rich corporations, often American corporations, controlled. And you are taking that land and giving it to these poor people. That's communism. And so in the 50s and 60s, we had the Red Scare. We saw communism in Cuba, we saw communism here in Guatemala, um, in Vietnam, in Africa. So uh, the West was flexing its muscles and putting these poorer people in their place. Um, from 1960 to 1996, so for 36 years, there was a civil war supported by the United States against the poor people of Guatemala. And the war was fought in San Lucas, in Santiago. Many indigenous people were killed, slaughtered. Um, and behind the Guatemalan military was the CIA, the United States CIA and United States military supporting, the government in repressing the revolution that the poor people were trying to undergo. Um, so we're going to watch a movie that was made in the 1980s during the war. It's called When the Mountains Tremble, and it depicts the civil war in Guatemala. And when you watch the movie, you will be, as we drive up to the mission from the airport, we will be driving through the exact area where this war was fought. And so you will see how rugged the terrain is, where the indigenous people, the Maya people would hide, would, try to attack the soldiers, where the soldiers would kill the Mayan people. Um, and a young woman whose father was burned to death and her brother was shot by the army. Her mother, brother, and father were all killed by the repressive government supported by the United States. And she escaped to Mexico and she told her story to someone who wrote it down. And in 1990, she won the Nobel Peace Prize. And this movie is based on her book that she dictated, and it is based on all true footage from the war, with just a couple scenes that are reenacted with actors, and you'll see it that it's labeled. So her name is Rigoberta Menchú. Um, and the movie is probably about an hour and a half long. Um, it is, I made a copy, and it's on Vimeo and on the um, website that I'll share with you. There's a link, and so you can watch it at your own time. Um, so the background is that a company from the United States called United Fruit Company, which is called Chiquita Banana, um, owned much of the land in Guatemala. And it didn't even use the land to grow its bananas, much of it. Much of it was just lying fallow, but taken from the Maya people. When those two presidents wanted to give the land back to the people, that's when the United States, Dwight Eisenhower and his Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, got the CIA to go into Guatemala and help a repressive army to come in and try to overthrow the government, which they were able to. And it began that 36-year civil war over bananas. And so Guatemala is quite literally a banana republic. And it's because of these, fight over United Fruit and United Fruit not wanting the rightful owners of the land to get it back that this war started. Um, and United Fruit is Boston-based, and um, you'll learn that the Dulles brothers, so Dulles International Airport, John Foster Dulles was the Secretary of State, and the person who started the CIA was his brother, Avery Dulles. They had a conflict of interest. They were both the lawyers to the United Fruit Company, and they were also part of our government. And so we'll learn some more background about this in the next meeting next week at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and see if there's any thoughts or questions or anything that you'd like to comment on. Um, so here is, let me share this with you. Or am I sharing this already? No? Okay. Share. Here we go. So this is what we'll be doing each week. Here's my cell phone. Put that in your phone. I sent a text message to all of you today. I hope it got to you. I usually answer text messages and emails, within the hour. So if you have any questions, and we'll have a group text when we're in Guatemala, and we'll probably use something like WhatsApp. Um, Oh, handy currency. So the URL for this website is, and I'll send it to you, is bit.ly Cabrini Guatemala Prep. And so that'll take you to this page. Every week, we're going to use the same Zoom link. Every week, there's a link to the presentation for that day's meeting. So if you wanted to go back and look at something, you could go back and look at it. Everybody on this call has already registered. The money is a quetzal, which is the bird of we have the eagle, they have the quetzal, a beautiful bird, and it's worth 13 cents. So when we go shopping on that first Sunday and you see that somebody wants to sell you, a cowboy hat for 200 Q, that would translate it's $26. So 100 Q is $13. So hopefully, that'll kind of sink into your head. Here is the link to when the mountains tremble. I'll also send that to you in an email and in a text. I usually have some thoughts or questions for you to think about. Each week, we're going to talk a little bit about one of the tenets of Catholic social teaching. So, although not you do not have to be Catholic, obviously, to have gone to Cabrini, but the social justice curriculum of Cabrini was based on Catholic social teaching, and often parishes don't talk too much about it. But this is really almost like, the Ten Commandments of social justice. So the first principle is all humans have inherent dignity. And the Pope just yesterday said, whether they're a prisoner, whether they're a migrant, they are dignified human beings and should be treated with dignity. So each week there'll be a link to the presentation. And then the third week, we will learn about Father Greg Schaefer and his remarkable career of almost 50 years at San Lucas. And I was so fortunate. The first 3 years, I was able to, he was there before he died, I believe, of skin cancer. And so we have a video to watch about him. The following week will be the priest who was martyred, Father Stan, and we will visit the exact spot where he was shot in his church. Then the next week we will talk about the culture and how we have to be careful about not imposing our culture on other people. There are various ways to do things, and just because we are rich in North America doesn't mean that we have all the answers to every aspect of human life. And then we're going to be keeping our eyes open for issues like hunger, maternal health, climate change, migration and refugees, and poverty. So, some background on those global issues that we're going to see firsthand and have a chance to discuss. And if some of you want to go to Washington to meet with our senators and a member of the House, these would be the topics we would talk about. And then the last meeting, we put out a daily newsletter to send to our families back home. So we'll have two people doing the newsletter, different people each day. We have evening discussions. We have two people leading the discussion each day. We also have teams to wash the dishes. So we'll get all of those last minute logistics out of the way. Okay. Well, thank you very much. If anybody wants to stay, I will hang around here if you have some individual questions you'd like to ask me. But otherwise, have a great evening, have a great week. And I can't tell you how happy I am. What a wonderful, wonderful group this is. It's really
Yay.
amazing. Yeah, so great. So great.
Okay. Looking forward to see you next week.
Yep. See ya.
Okay. Bye.
Thank
Take care.
you. Have a
Bye.
good one, Daisy.
Bye-bye. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.